Alright, so if you're having trouble with the Pascal's triangle, I'm going to break it down into pieces for you. Knowing how to find a term in a specific binomial expansion, knowing how to find the coefficient in a binomial expansion, and then knowing how to expand a binomial completely. So the first thing you need to do is get this triangle down pat. So here it is. You're going to always start out, I'm going to call it this. My first row, technically, is row 0. I'm going to go through 6. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Your row 0 is like you raise something to the 0 power, and if you raise anything to the 0 power, you just get 1. So that's kind of a no-brainer, easy peasy, it just is 1. If I raise something to the first power, my exponent is 1, then my coefficients are going to both be 1. If I raise it to the second power, here's where the pattern starts. You add these two to get this one. To the third power, you add these to give you this one, add these to give you this one. You always start and finish with 1. On the fourth power, or row 4, you start with 1, you end with 1, and you add, and you add, and that gives you the fillers. On the 5th row, or raising something to the 5th power, you start and end with 1, and then you add, and you add, and you add, and you add, ends with 1. If it's to the 6th row, you start and finish with 1, you add, you add, you add, you add, you add, and you can keep going forever. There's really no need for us to keep going too very far because really it's just learning a process. So this is your triangle. You need to learn it, you need to know it, you need to be able to reproduce it so that when it comes test and quiz time, you know what you're doing. So I'm going to do some problems right here real quick. You're just going to write them on some paper. I'm going to write them on some paper. If you want to just watch, that's fine. This is strictly voluntary for anybody that needs to know what they're doing because they're still struggling. So, find the term. Just find the term. That's all you're looking for. And so remember, we talked about with this triangle, if it's to the second power, you're going to have 3 terms. It's to the 5th power, you're going to have 6 terms. The number of terms is always 1 more than the exponent. And so if I have this one, I want to find the 3rd term in this binomial expansion. So here's what I need. Do the box because it's going to help you organize everything. If it's to the 4th power, I need 5 columns. I always need 3 rows. I don't need the last box on the middle row. I don't need the first box on the bottom row. If it's to the 4th power, 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. Comes straight from here to the 4th power, 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. The first row is for your coefficients. Now, I only need the 3rd term, 1, 2, 3. So I really only am looking for what's going to be right here. So if I start here with a 3x squared, every time you move to the next box, you multiply by 3x squared. So that's 9x to the 4th. I start here with my 2nd term, 1. Every time you move to the next box, you multiply by 1. So I'm going to multiply the column. 6 times 9 times 1 gives me 54. And my variable is x to the 4th. And that is the 3rd term in the binomial expansion. If I were to expand it out all the way, that would be the third term in the polynomial. That's all we're doing. Okay, so now let's find the fifth term in this one, y minus x to the fifth power. So if it's to the fifth power, I need 6 columns. 3 rows. I don't need this box, I don't need this one. If it's to the fifth power, coming straight from my triangle, those are my coefficients. If I want the fifth term, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I only want this column because I want the fifth term, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to start with a y. I don't need to go this way because that's the only box I'm concerned about. And then I'm going to go with my negative x. Every time I move forward, I'm going to multiply by negative x. So that's going to be a positive x squared, negative x cubed, positive x to the fourth. Multiply the column. That is the fifth term in the expansion of that binomial. I'm going to give you 2 to do on your own. I'm going to do them. I'm going to put them up here, pause them. You're going to do them and check them. So I want you to find the second term in this one. And I want you to find the fourth term in this one. So you do these two, pause the video and do them, and then come back and check them. Okay, so I wanted the second term. It's to the third power. My coefficients are 1, 3, 3, 1. The second term is going to put me in this column. I start with y to the fourth here. If I move forward, I multiply by y to the fourth, gives me y to the eighth. I start here with 5. I don't need to move forward because I want the second term. I'm in the second column. Just multiply. 3 times 5 times y to the 8 gives me 15y to the 8th. The fourth term in this one is to the fifth power. So I need 6 columns. My coefficients are 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, and 1. I want the fourth term. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to start here with the v. Every time you move forward, you multiply by v. So v times v is v squared. That's as far as I need to go. Start here with the 2. Every time I move to the next box, I multiply by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. This is the column I want. And so 10 times 8 times v squared gives me 80v squared. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to finding a specific term using your Pascal's triangle. If you still need help after you've watched this, see me. Let me help you.